I'm Frida Kleiman. I'm a professor of biochemistry in the chemistry department. And I teach approximately 150 students in a lab setting. So we have a recitation, and most of these students don't have the opportunity to do research in a lab because, there are not that many openings. So they are not only lacking that research experience, but also they are lacking the experience to do some research on articles and to in second source material. So since 2016, I've been collaborating with Iris in one of our classes where we are teaching them how to do a search of a material in a subject that they are interested and how to contribute to Wikipedia. And this has been excellent because we just published a nice paper. Most of the research is done by Iris, but the quality of what Wikipedia depends on the academic institutions to improve it. And I think we are contributing to that. And so Iris will tell you a little more of the details, but that's our story. So we are giving the students opportunity to not only do a research-like experiments in the setting of a class, but also to do this contribution in a written way to an article. Iris?
Thank you, Frida. Yes, it's been a great opportunity to work with faculty and encourage students to edit Wikipedia, because as I always say, Wikipedia only gets better if we contribute to it with factual information. So that requires secondary research. So as Frida said, in her lab, the students are doing primary research because they're just doing lab studies. And the Wikipedia assignment gives them an opportunity to do secondary research and share that information in Wikipedia. So Wikipedia is a resource that people say, oh, anyone can edit it. And that is true. Anyone can edit it. But it is required by the Wikipedia community, which is the volunteer community, to assure that all of the contributions by people are supported by secondary sources. So that means doing some research before you can contribute text. So it's an opportunity to share that information publicly. So it is a form of public scholarship, and students can say, look, I've contributed to this this Wikipedia article, and it's available. I've made this information available. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the assignment that and the logistics of the assignment with in Frida's classes. So we use something called the WikiEdu dashboard, and it's by the Wikipedia education people, and it's I can show it to you in a moment, but it is a dashboard that enables you to facilitates the assignment. So you can have a whole timeline. You can give guides. You can assign guides for students. So the way we do it is goes over a period of weeks starting in the middle of the semester, and every week there is a task. We don't grade the tasks along the way, but we encourage students to stay on track with that so that they're ready at the end of the semester with their contribution and their secondary sources. So I set that up. Students set up their Wikipedia accounts, and then I go into the class for one class session to introduce the assignment, to show them the dashboard, to show them Wikipedia, and to tell them what kind of articles they'll be using. So to stick to the subject matter, we encourage the use of stubs. Stubs are short Wikipedia articles that need to be developed. And this enables students to make the most impact in these articles because there's not a lot of information in them already. So they can provide that information, and then they don't risk that contribution getting deleted, which could often happen with a full article. So we give a range of the stubs that they can use in the biochemistry category, because Wikipedia has all these categories of articles that need to be developed. And also articles can be created also if there's not a topic in Wikipedia for it. So I monitor the dashboard and I provide support. So I'm just going to share the dashboard right now that we're using for the class, and there's one for every class. So this is the Wikipedia dashboard, and here there's a timeline. So this talks about the whole assignment, which we have, which has evolved over time. We did a study a few years ago. We started it during, I think it was the first semester that we went into lockdown. So we extended our study for a couple more semesters to gather sufficient data to see how students felt about the assignment, to see what they got out of it, and to use that information to modify the assignment. So we've done that over time. And here you can see the types of tasks that students will work on for this assignment. So over time, one of the things that we've added is a reflective portion, because before they were just doing the assignment, which was contributing a couple of sentences supported by at least a couple of sentences supported by at least 2 secondary sources that we advise getting through the Hunter College Library's online resources. So they use that and they contribute to the article. And then at the end of the semester, Frida and I grade the assignment. So we were thinking, well, based on what we found from the study, let's hear more about what they're learning. So we added a reflective portion. So the reflective portion is done, they submit it to Blackboard and then we read it and include it in our grading. So that has really helped. And from that, then another piece has evolved, which is a peer review. So now students do a little peer review of one of their classmates' articles, and they reflect on that. They add that to their reflection. So it's multi-pronged. They're writing for Wikipedia, and they're also writing for us to understand what they're getting, and for them to reflect on and do a little meta-analysis of their work. So that's been really pretty successful, and some of those statistics will be in our article, so you can take a look at that. And it's ongoing. We continue to look at this and maybe change as we go along. And let's see. So yes, so I've added that. And one of the other things that we learned through the research for our article is how many schools use this type of assignment in the sciences. Medical schools, classes ranging from undergraduate classes through medical schools are contributing. And medical professionals also believe it's their responsibility to make these articles better and accurate for the public, if that's what they're using. Everyone, I will say mostly everyone does use Wikipedia these days. So I think that about covers what we do with the assignment. At the end of when the assignment has all been submitted, Professor Kleiman and I get together and we grade the assignment. The assignment is worth 10% of the whole overall grade, and there are components within that, giving students a chance at different points to gain points for their assignment. And I am available as a support if any time students need some help with doing something in Wikipedia or just some understanding of the assignment. I'm available. So we are, Professor Kleiman and I are available to help students, and we just hope that this just continues to grow, and we encourage students to continue to edit. And I will encourage all of us to edit Wikipedia. So thank you. And I will stop sharing. And I will now lead us to 2 students who have actually worked on the assignment, which is so great. I guess we'll start with Beatrice, who worked on the assignment in the chemistry, the biochemistry class, and then Luise actually worked on the assignment in an art history class, which was a completely different type of assignment. And I was I provided minimal support with that assignment. I went in and introduced the assignment, and then the professor really talked about it with students, and students proceeded on their own. So I am very interested in hearing from Luise as well. So with that, I will hand it over to Beatrice. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Beatrice, and I am majoring in biochemistry, and I'm actually graduating this semester. So I took this biochemistry lab course last semester with Professor Kleiman, and I wanted to share my screen so that I could show my Wikipedia project from last semester. So this was my Wikipedia page. Before I started it, it was probably 3 sentences. And I chose this topic of reductive stress because it actually contributes to some of the work that I'm doing in a lab setting currently for my biochemistry honors project. So I not only use the guiding modules from Professor Finkel and Professor Kleiman, but I also use the Hunter College database to look up articles, and Google Scholar as well. So I contributed about, out of these 10 references, I contributed probably, I think it was 7 articles, 7 or 8. And I used those articles and was able to, I thought it was interesting because I was able to take these academic papers and kind of change the messages and orient it more into like, into words and sentences that the general public can understand, which I found very interesting. And I'm still using a lot of these skills and these tools in my courses today. So if you guys want to look, I'm very proud of the work that I did on this project. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak about it, because I really, really like doing this project.
Yeah, so I'm a second semester art history student enrolled in Hunter College's MA program, and leading up to joining the MA program in the fall, I did 2 undergraduate classes at Hunter College, one of which led me to do this Wikipedia project with Dr. Uchenna Itam. So it was a course on 20th century African American art history. And I would like to share my screen with you to show you a little visual journey through the project, and hope that for any other art history students, if anybody's on this call or listening in later, that it might be helpful. I'm really happy to talk about this project. It was really rewarding in the context of Professor Uchenna Itam's course on African American art that I took in the spring last year. So as I mentioned, the Wikipedia project that Professor Finkel helped us with was a big part of our class assignment. So it was actually 50% of the grading, high stakes assignment. And we went through the Wiki education dashboard, of course, and it was really helpful that Professor Finkel came to talk us through it. And I remember that at some point I came to seek you out with a very specific project. So thank you very much for that. Was great to receive your help on that project. Wikipedia has a few kinks here and there, and it can be very helpful to have somebody to rescue you if that happens. But yeah, just to explain the title, this comes actually from a training document from Wikipedia. Don't be scared, be bold. And it sums up my journey through this assignment pretty well. So this is the starting point in our class. At some point, you have seen the Wiki education dashboard on the right, with all the training modules that we went through. That was really good. I did one Wikipedia page before I got to do this, but I couldn't really remember how I did it. And there's a lot of policy attached, how to write and how to do things, and copyright infringements and whatnot. So it's really great as a recap. And on the left, you see Professor Itam's spreadsheet. The scope of this assignment was to provide collective scholarship, public scholarship for under-researched African American artists, specifically Black female artists. So we had our working list with all the names of the artists on the left, and then the students. So each of us got assigned 2 artists. In the most optimistic case, you would have an already existing Wikipedia page with some information on it, and you just had to provide a little bit, add to the body of work. And in the least optimistic case, there was nothing. So you had to create the page from scratch. That was my case. I had Geraldine McCullough and Victoria Susan Meek as an assignment. I started out, of course, looking through all the places where you're supposed to look, all the libraries, Hunter, and then going outside of Hunter very quickly because there was not much, to New York Public Library. And I found a little snippet at the Schomburg Center in Minority Voices. But that didn't take me very far. And I went to the MoMA Library and the Watson Library and everywhere on the internet and Google Scholar and everything you can imagine. But there was one book I found on the library at Hunter College, and it was through interlibrary loan, but I was waiting and waiting and waiting, and it didn't come. And it turned out that actually Professor Itam held it hostage. And of course, that was one source, main source for the course. And after we went through our first rounds of research, she provided us with some additional clues because I was not the only one hitting a wall with this assignment. So we got a first, like a short overview of the artist is on the left. You see a short introduction to Victoria Susan Meek, and from the exhibition catalog Forever Free. So there was a traveling exhibition, and it went through 3, 4, or 5 institutions in America. So it was a really great resource for everybody. Everybody had something to work with at this point, but I didn't have much more. The assignment with Geraldine McCullough was starting to go well. I found things, but I wanted to focus a little bit on Victoria Susan Meek because it was one kind of a journey and research learning opportunity. So standing on very thin ground with this assignment, at that point, I had shared my concern with Professor Itam, of course, and we had almost weekly conversations about research strategies and where else to look. But yeah, it was, I spent a lot of time basically finding nothing. And then it was a rainy day and we were getting closer to the end of the assignment. So I thought, well, I have already asked all the people I know in my network, all the artists, all the curators. I knew a few collectors who were collecting African-American artists, and nobody had heard of Victoria Susan Meek. So I came up with a last-ditch effort, and I looked for all the names in that catalog, the exhibition catalog. Who were the curators? Where did the exhibition travel to? All the institutions. So it's writing to all of them. Tried to Google all the curators. I found one on social media and wrote on Facebook to her. And then I wrote to all the institutions that were hosting the exhibition. I found the universities where Victoria Susan Meek was teaching in the past or had some type of affiliation. So on the left, you see all the emails I sent with information request. And then I Googled the visiting curator of this exhibition, which was David C. Driscoll. And I found out that there was an archive. So it turns out there's this fantastic David C. Driscoll archive for African-American art and the African diaspora, housed by the University of Maryland. And I wrote to them, and the next day, I received an email from the archivist. Nobody else had responded. This was my only response. And it was golden because the archivist, David Conway, who really saved the day for me, he said, well, could it be that Victoria Susan Meek is actually the Dallas-based artist Vicky Meek? And I was like, sounds plausible, but that could also be not the case. And he sent a link to a panel discussion. It's like, check it out, and another book. So maybe that's helpful. And I did. So I listened to the panel discussion, and I needed to corroborate all the facts, because the question was, is Victoria Susan Meek Vicky Meek? And after trying to figure out, is that the same birthday? Did she go to the same college? And I figured out, yes, that's Susan Victoria Meek, who I'm looking for. And there she was. She had a website, she had a gallery, she had museum exhibition press articles. And by Googling her name and researching her name in any direction, Victoria Susan Meek didn't give me Vicky Meek. So I was just missing that one link. And I thought, great, now that I have come this far, why stop? I might as well contact her. And I went to her website, I wrote an email, and she wrote back to me wondering how I came across her work. And she was so thrilled that I contacted her. I explained the project. We were studying and researching under-researched African-American artists and creating Wikipedia pages for them. And she told me somebody in the past had contacted her and suggested to create a Wikipedia page for her, but that person had never followed through, but she always wanted to have a Wikipedia page. And here I was doing just that. She was very happy and supportive of the whole process. We had a nice conversation. And here is the Wikipedia page that I created. So it's much longer. This is just an example. You can go and take a look. So I had ample information at that point. And I checked a few days ago, almost 500 page views for almost a year and 12 contributors. So now the page has a life of its own. So it's a nice, rewarding statistic to know that people are looking at the page and they're correcting the page and adding to it. So that was great. It made me happy, and it made Vicky Meek happy. That was actually her artist name, and why the catalog used her legal name, Victoria Susan Meek, she even didn't know. But that was a little bit the problem in the research journey. And yeah, so this is the end of an assignment and the beginning of a friendship. We're friends on Facebook now, wishing each other a happy birthday. She sent me her catalog with a nice dedication, thanking me for all the efforts. And it was really a wonderful challenge, I think, for me, and a great lead up to the MA program to be involved in this. And yeah, I'm glad that everything turned out to be a great final project.